Imagine driving a car on an endless, empty highway. 40 years ago, you locked the steering wheel straight ahead. The brakes remain untouched. The gas stays untouched. No wind exists. No road. Just nothing. Now, picture that suddenly, without touching a thing, the car turns. It doesn't drift. It steers. It points itself toward a dark, music patch of the desert and stops waiting. This isn't hypothetical. It's happening right now. 15 billion music miles from Earth. NASA claims its Voyager 1 probe sends usable information again. But the story they tell the public is music just the tip of the iceberg. For 46 years, Voyager 1 followed its design. Send data. Never turn. Never listen. Then, without warning, the antenna shifted. Something answered. Not from Earth, and not from any known star, but from a patch of sky that should have been empty. What followed wasn't just strange. It was impossible. Voyager 1 didn't. Music just break. It made a choice. Or perhaps something made the choice for it. Let's understand the victim here. Voyager 1 is a relic. Launched on September 5th, music 1977. It's a machine with 800 watts of plutonium power and memory smaller than a single JPEG. No advanced AI, no sensors, music to scan for life. Built to do one thing, leave. It sped past Jupiter and Saturn. Music crossed the Heliopause in 2012 and entered the interstellar medium, the borderless, unnamed stretch of music space beyond the sun's influence. Out there, the sun is just another pinprick of light. No solar wind to push it, no gravitational, music, fields to guide it. By all physics laws, nothing should happen there. For over 40 years, it drifted in silence. The farthest object humans have, music, ever touched, floating in the cosmic equivalent of a sensory deprivation tank. But on November 6th, 2023, that silence didn't just break. It shattered. It began with a transmission that looked off. The data returned, music distorted, like a static-filled stream without any known pattern. NASA engineers first blamed the usual suspects: cosmic radiation, music, or degraded wiring. After all, it's a 46-year-old machine. But then Voyager's fault protection systems activated. These are emergency protocols for catastrophic failures, like if the spacecraft spins uncontrollably. But here's the scary part. They engaged without a clear trigger. No command from mission control, no debris impact. Yet Voyager started, music, acting like it had been hit by something invisible. Telemetry logs turned unreadable. Orientation records vanished, and onboard clocks drifted, music, out of sync. This wasn't random data loss. It was something reaching deeper, music, into the spacecraft structure itself. It reacted to an event it couldn't process, essentially screaming in music, panic at something we couldn't see. If the data was weird, the physical movement was impossible. Not long after the emergency systems fired, Voyager 1 did something it should never do on its own. It turned. The spacecraft's high-gain antenna, programmed to stay locked on Earth, to phone home, shifted position, but it didn't realign with us. Instead, it aimed toward a patch of sky with nothing visible. Here's where the physics breaks. The shift didn't involve the music spacecraft's thrusters. No propulsion recorded, no jets firing. It was as if the orientation simply changed on its own. NASA ran every scenario. Hacks, software bugs, solar pressure, but everything got ruled out. The onboard gyroscopes recorded a torque, music, event, a physical rotation. A machine drifting through the most silent, empty region of space, known, music, to humanity, was pushed. It felt like a subtle, intentional adjustment, like something out there understood Voyager's music design and wanted to steer it. And where did it point? To a null zone, a theoretical pocket where gravitational, music forces cancel out. A place Voyager shouldn't even know exists. Once Voyager locked onto this music, null zone, it stopped acting like a confused robot and started acting like a receiver. The antenna stayed locked, and then the plasma wave subsystem picked music up something new. It wasn't chaotic static of deep space. It was a tone, a soft, steady hum holding at 30,000 hertz. Researchers called it the plasma melody because it pulsed with music, a consistent rhythm. Acoustic engineers analyzed the waveform and found mirrored structures and, evenly, music space pauses. It moved like a melody written in numbers. But buried inside that hum was data, impossible data. It wasn't temperature or velocity readings. It was hexadecimal strings, music recursive formulas, and fractal symmetry. Some numbers matched astronomical constants. Music, but with precision Voyager's 1970s instruments couldn't possibly measure. It was as if the probe had been used, music, as a vessel carrying someone else's data back to Earth. The signal came in clean, direct, and narrow, focused on Voyager 1 alone. It didn't spill over to other probes like Pioneer. Whatever sent this knew exactly music, where Voyager was and exactly when it would arrive. While Voyager sang this impossible math song, music, scientists back on Earth didn't just sit listening. They looked. They took ground-based observatories, music, and aimed high-exposure infrared arrays at that exact empty patch of sky Voyager had turned to face. At first, nothing, just blackness. But they kept the shutter open, and weeks into music, the scan, the data began to bleed through. It wasn't a star, and it wasn't a galaxy. It was a glow, a faint shimmering halo at the music very edge of detection. But here's the creepy part. It was alive. The halo didn't stay still. It blinked. And it didn't just blink randomly. It responded to us. Researchers noticed that every time our sun emitted a solar flare, a burst of charged particles, the halo flickered back moments later. It wasn't a reflection. The timing was deliberate, syncing to the solar rhythm like a dancer following a beat. We weren't just looking music at a cloud of gas. We were looking at something that was watching our sun and responding to it. Then, just as panic started, music to set in at NASA, Voyager 1 did the one thing a space probe should never do. It died. For 12 full hours, the signal, music flatlined. Total silence. For a machine that survived solar storms and 46 years of radiation, music, this was unprecedented. It had never gone quiet like this. And then, snap, it came back. But the Voyager that returned wasn't the same Voyager that left. When the data stream reconnected, the internal clocks were wrong. Not just laggy wrong, they were fully reset. The timestamps on the new data didn't match any known timeline from Earth. It was as if, for those 12 hours, Voyager hadn't just been off. It was as if it had been somewhere else, somewhere with different rules of time. There were no mechanical corrections, music logged. It felt like the probe had passed through a door, and when it came back out, it had been touched. NASA needed to know, music, if this was a glitch or something real. So a team from European Space Agency, music, decided to look at the biggest map we have, the cosmic microwave background, CMB, the afterglow of the Big Bang, the oldest light in the universe. This map is supposed to be static. It's the wallpaper of the universe. It shouldn't change. But when they cross-referenced Voyager's path with deep, music field CMB data, they found a ghost. Buried in the static was a distortion, a structured music ripple, a silhouette that aligned perfectly with Voyager's current course. But here's the part that keeps astrophysicists, music, awake at night. The ripple hadn't appeared after the event. It had been there for decades. They checked old data from the Planck mission and WMAP. The anomaly was always there. This implies something terrifying. The background static of the universe knew music, where Voyager 1 would be in 2023. It wasn't an accident. It was an appointment. The data Voyager brought back from music, the other side was unusable by standard computers. The coding was too complex, full of recursive music, formulas, and fractal symmetry. NASA's standard supercomputers couldn't read it, so they went quantum. They fed the signal into a Majorana 1 chip, a quantum processor designed to interpret probability and complexity rather than just music, binary math. The chip didn't just decode the file. It realized it was reading a language. It found patterns that folded back on themselves, like a music sentence written in logic instead of words. And when the processor finally finished translating music, the structure, it output a single line of text. It wasn't a coordinate. It wasn't a formula. It was a question. Are you ready to listen? And beneath that question, at the very core of the file, was a sound. A steady, perfectly tuned hum locked at 30,000 hertz. Experts agree it's not noise. It uses intervals, rests, and music harmonies. It is music, a symphony sent from the void, asking us if we are finally awake enough to hear it. So, how do music scientists explain this? How do you explain a 1970s robot hallucinating quantum math? They stopped calling it a malfunction. They gave it a new name, field interaction. This is the technical term they settled on because the music energy surrounding the probe didn't behave like radiation, dust, or interference. It didn't scatter or explode like natural phenomena. Music do. It moved with purpose. When Voyager turned, the field turned with it. When the transmission spiked, the rhythm returned. The beam wasn't broadcast across space like a flare. It was narrow and controlled. It acted less like a music wave and more like a handshake. Whatever touched Voyager in that black stretch of space had broken the rules of physics as we know them. For a long time, the working theory was that Voyager had intercepted music, a message, a stray signal crossing the galaxy. But that theory fell apart. As the data unraveled, the sequence, music, started to feel less like a message sent to Voyager and more like a reaction triggered by Voyager. Every anomaly, the tone, the rotation, music, the code, lined up with a specific location. It didn't feel like a call for attention. It felt like an answer. Think about that. What if Voyager didn't receive a message at all? What if it knocked on something and something knocked back? Whatever responded didn't do so with panic. It replied in rhythm, as if it had been waiting to return the call. This wasn't us finding aliens. This was something detecting music, us recognizing us, and making the choice to say hello. Publicly, NASA, music played it cool. They released polite updates about signal anomalies and ongoing analysis. Just vague technical jargon to keep everyone calm. But behind the music scenes, it was a breakdown. Internal documents were stamped classified. Music, high-level meetings were held off the record. Entire processing teams were retasked to focus solely, music, on Voyager. They even called back engineers who hadn't worked on the probe in decades, pulling them out of retirement. Why? Because the timeline made no sense. The Department of Defense quietly logged interest. They realized that a music 1970 spacecraft had spontaneously changed direction, picked up a pattern signal. Music, it wasn't equipped to receive, and returned from a total blackout with code formats it was never designed to understand. NASA didn't panic because something failed. They panicked because something worked. Music, something they didn't create. This brings us to the most chilling realization of all. No moment hit harder than those 12 hours of silence, because for that stretch, music of time, Voyager was gone. And whatever it passed through changed everything. Everyone who has seen the raw, unedited breakdowns of music, these transmissions agrees on one truth that can't be shaken. Voyager wasn't music drifting alone. Something found it. Something waited, and when the moment came, it answered. We sent a bottle into the cosmic music ocean, hoping someone would find it in a million years. We never expected the ocean to be watching us, music, the moment we dipped our toes in. So, we are left with a terrifying reality. We used to look at the stars and wonder if we were alone. But Voyager 1 might have just answered that question in the quietest way. Music possible. It didn't find a fleet of ships. It didn't find a Death Star. It found a hum, a rhythm, a field that knew it was coming. Now, I have to ask you, and I want you to really think about this. What do you think is out there in the null zone? Is it a natural phenomenon we just don't understand yet? Or is it exactly what the math suggests, a listening post, a sensor, or a door? And if something did knock back, should we answer? Let me know your theories in the comments below. I read the crazy ones. If this video kept you on the edge of your seat, hit that like button so we can feed the algorithm, and subscribe to join us as we chase the unknown. Voyager is still out there, and as long as it's talking, we're listening. I'd love to hear what you think about this, so drop a comment below. If you enjoyed our conversation today, please share this video and subscribe to help the channel grow. Every bit of support counts.